Hello there, and welcome along to the first ever episode and introduction to the brand new Gardenerben podcast. Firstly, let me take this opportunity to apologise for those of you that know who I am and have been waiting for this podcast to land for several months now. Working full-time as a horticulturalist, running your own business, maintaining a third of an acre of garden and being a content creator keeps me incredibly busy. So carving out the time to do extra products and learn new skills like setting up laptops and microphones has taken me some time to get round to. So I apologise for it taking me quite so long. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is obviously Ben, and obviously I am a gardener with over 30 years of experience behind me and a horticultural degree. Through frustration over the last few years, I've been sharing my craft online using the handle _Gardenerben across multimedia platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Facebook, Threads and YouTube, and you're more than welcome to follow along on any of those platforms. I'm known for creating how-to videos, grow-alongs, and more importantly, plant reviews. I'm a David Austin Rose brand ambassador and have now reviewed over 135 David Austin Roses, offering my opinion on growth habit, size, shape, form, colour, fragrance and disease resistance. And every year, during National Rose Month, I normally film around 15 to 20 individual personal rose reviews. Then, at the end of the season, I create rankings, bringing these together in personally created best-of collections. Everything is available for you to watch at your own pace, and if you need any help whatsoever, don't hesitate to drop me a message. Over the coming weeks and months, you're going to hear me talk an awful lot about the subjects I'm incredibly passionate about. Obviously, this is going to include roses and the other big 5 that make up my gardening passions. I talk about these big 5 in my content an awful lot, but as with most gardeners, I am an absolute plant hoarder. I find plants all over the place. I shoehorn them into my garden when I don't necessarily have space for them. My passions include bearded irises, peonies, obviously roses, sweet peas, and I end the season growing an awful lot of dahlias. During this podcast, you're going to be hearing me talk about my big 5 an awful lot. I'm going to have a series of invited guests to talk about subjects that I need to learn about and I feel that you might have an interest from as well. I'll also be taking questions and comments from people, answering your questions to give you the information that you need. So I hope that you find the content invaluable and useful over the coming weeks and months as we grow and learn together. I've been gardening now for a little over 30 years, and as soon as I could pop on a pair of wellies and head out into the garden, I did. My mum and dad always knew exactly where to find me, and people find it absolutely hilarious when I regale tales of my childhood. When I say that for my 10th birthday I asked for a greenhouse, and for my 11th birthday I asked for a pond, topping it off for my 12th birthday with 1 or 2 tons of rockery stone to complete the look. As a young child, I went into full-scale production, growing vast quantities of vegetables, fruits and flowers for my family, neighbours and friends. At some points being completely overwhelmed with tomatoes, peppers and chilies, and not really knowing what to do with them. The garden for me has always been somewhere to escape, somewhere to sit back and enjoy the seasons. I really enjoy the rhythm that the seasons create, and sharing the beauty of each season through my social media accounts, which for me were really born out of frustration. I've been gardening for a very long time commercially and find that most people aren't particularly interested in the craft or the know-how behind what you actually do for a living. People want things to look nice and that's absolutely fine. So sharing my craft online and giving people as much information about the science and horticultural techniques behind these things has actually been a really nice outlet for myself over the last 5 or 6 years. Gardening for me occupies every single fibre of my life. I not only garden for work, I also garden for pleasure. Having 3/4 of an acre of garden wrapping around our 324-year-old thatched cottage here on the outskirts of the New Forest. This is a gardener's dream, and I've planted around 300 roses, not all of which are David Austin, but the vast majority are. Heavily companion planted with herbaceous perennials, spring and summer flowering bulbs. Round the back of the garage, I'm lucky enough to have a large amount of space, which I've allocated to a vegetable and cutting garden, made up of a series of raised beds centralising around my potting shed, which realistically is a filming stage, and my small but very functioning Crittall 6x8 greenhouse, which is really the workhouse of the garden, producing lots and lots of plants organically here. I believe as a gardener, organic is best, and having a really strong interest in creating a rich and biodiverse habitat, not only for my garden, but also all of the creatures who want to visit my garden, allowing everything to exist in moderation and welcoming all sorts of different wildlife into the garden, focused on soil health, proper pruning techniques, and soil condition using mulches and lots of organic matter. I haven't reached for a spray bottle now here in the garden for a good 5 or 6 years, and I'm really proud of the garden that I've now created. It's a rich tapestry of plants with a long flowering season, and I believe in making sure the garden has interest not only for wildlife but also for the gardener to draw them out into the garden even through the depths of the winter months. There's something in flower normally from the end of January all the way through to the very end of November, with the garden only really going quiet for the 6 weeks over the Christmas period. My product reviews came around in 2021 and really came from a place wanting to educate people about the colour, form and fragrance of different plants. I've now reviewed 135 different roses, dozens of peonies, and offer my thoughts and impressions on sweet peas, bearded irises and many other plants in the garden. All of my filming, like this podcast, is done in a very natural way, with no post-production, no editing, and more importantly for me, no filtering. The colours you see are always filmed in natural light, and wherever possible, everything is filmed in one continuous loop, with me offering my thoughts, impressions and opinions. My David Austin Rose reviews have grown and grown over the last few years, with me now offering my opinions on colour, form, fragrance, and now disease resistance, ranking these items out of 10 stars. My media continues to evolve, and I'm always happy to answer just as many questions as I can get. I'm more than happy live streaming in front of a camera, speaking to a live audience. However, setting up this podcast with a laptop, microphone and pen and paper has been a really difficult thing for me to do. I want to make it as personal and as approachable as possible, like the other media I create on other platforms. So please feel free to leave me a comment or a question in the section below, and I will endeavour to obviously answer your questions and create media around the subject you want to see. Over the coming weeks, the first episode is actually going to be an interview with myself, carried out by my husband Mark, who is going to ask a series of questions not only from followers and subscribers, but also people who comment on this particular podcast, with a view to get to know me properly and set out an agenda of what you can expect to see over the weeks and months ahead. I'm also going to be talking you through exactly what I'm doing in the garden over the coming weeks and months as we move through the different seasons. There will also be a series of invited guests bringing their own individual takes and passions to the podcast, which I hope you really enjoy. Thank you for joining me for the first introduction of the all-new Gardenerben podcast. I look forward to bringing you the first episodes of this over the next few weeks. Please do make sure that you leave a comment below if there's a subject you'd like me to talk about, and show this podcast a little bit of love. I'll see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.